to Rollercoasting with Raven. Today we're going to take a look back at 2025 and see all of my favorites from the year. Let's get started. Like everyone else, I haven't been doing a whole lot for a month, so I have not really been posting a ton of long form content. I've mainly been focusing on shorts and things happening in my personal life. But I'm back, and before we get started on an exciting new trip series next week, be sure to stay around and check it out. I'm going to be going over my favorites of 2025. Anyways, I'm going to go over my top 5 of the year, starting with coasters. Now, this was a fantastic year for me getting back out into the parks, and I rode about 100 new roller coasters, and I rode plenty of my old favorites. There are some that are on my top 5 coasters list overall that did not make it into this list, but that's just because I didn't get to ride them in 2025. I-305, P305, Pantherian, whatever you want to call it, that's definitely one of them. Unfortunately, I was at the park 3 or 4 days last year and I still did not get to experience it because they were working on the repainting, enhancing the theming, that sort of stuff. So just keep in mind, this was my favorites of 2025. Starting with number 5, Stardust Racers. Now, I don't have a lot of footage because this was back when I was not filming yet, but I did get the chance to go visit Epic in July, and it was really, really hot, but also fantastic. We were lucky to have a great day at Epic and got to ride both sides of Stardust Racers. One of those rides was on the green side at night in the front row while the fountain display was going off, and it was so cool to get to experience, and that is definitely like a core memory of 2025 for me. Awesome layout. I wish that the US had more mock coasters, and I really look forward to getting back to this park at some point soon. Number 4, like my shirt, is the Beast. Kings Island is one of my home parks along with Kentucky Kingdom, and I just love getting on this iconic ride. They work on it so well. They're working on retracking right now in the off season, and they just keep it so well maintained. It's so much fun, especially at night. I love how it takes you really far back in the woods, and it's just a very unique experience. If you haven't ridden the Beast, especially the Beast at night, totally give it a whirl. Number 3, we're going over to the West Coast for this one, and that is Ghost Rider at Knott's Berry Farm. Now, I debate where I put this in my rankings every year because every time I get out there, I'm like, this is just so fantastic, but it's like a 4.5-hour flight for me, which is annoying. But it's really nice having family that lives close to Ghost Rider, so I can have an excuse to go out there every year. I love night rides on this thing, rides during the day. I think the pacing of it is just excellent. The layout was great, and they've kept it really well maintained for, almost 30 years now. And I am just super excited that I was able to get back out to Knott's Berry Farm and ride this iconic coaster. Number 2 was what used to be my number 1, Steel Vengeance. Everyone knows about this RMC and loves it so much. It has a fantastic layout. It feels like you could honestly have 2/3 of the layout and still have a great coaster, but that extra 1/3 is just icing on the cake at the end. They have the perfect amount of floater and ejector airtime, and that brings me to my number 1 coaster of the year, which was Velocicoaster at Islands of Adventure. It stole Steel Vengeance's spot as my top coaster. And I know that this is super cliche because it feels like half the enthusiasts out there these days say that Velocicoaster is their favorite, but it is just iconic, fantastic theming, and Intamin really just does a fantastic job, especially with those new generation coasters, the new gen trains, and the capacity on this is just awesome. You can wait for a front row ride, which I highly recommend. I like the front row better than the back. But you can wait for a front row, and it's only like an extra 3 or 4 minutes, and it is so worth it. Love this coaster during the day, at night, overlooking the lake. That Monosaurus roll at the end is just like so insane. I always feel like I'm gonna fall out, and I ride coasters all the time. So that tells you something. I always get a little freaked out at that point. But Velocicoaster, number 1 coaster of 2025, but also new number 1 coaster in general. Moving on, I'm going to talk about my top 5 theme parks of the year. First one is number 5, Knott's Berry Farm. Knott's was just a fantastic experience like it is every other time, but for the first time in my life, I got to experience Knott's Merry Farm. They did have shorter hours because we were visiting during a weekday, so we didn't quite get to see all of the lights out when it was dark and all that, but it was still a fantastic time to get in the holiday spirit. They have a special smaller train that you can get on that's even more interactive than their usual train. Of course, you can enjoy classic flat rides like the carousel, the more thrilling coasters like Hang Time or Accelerator, as well as Pony Express and some of those more family adventures. So it's really a park for the whole family, and I really love Knott's. I love the theming, everything about it, the food, the merch. They just hit it out of the park. I think this is one of Six Flags' best parks, and it really inspired Disneyland and other parks to be like it is today. My fourth park is my home park, Kings Island. Now, I spend more time here than just about any other park pretty much every year, and there's a reason why, even though one of the reasons is that, it's like an hour and a half away from me. Another is just that it's fantastic. It has one of the best collections of coasters, in my opinion, especially wooden coasters with the racers and the Beast and all of the supporting lineup. I just really love being there. I think the customer service there is excellent. The guest relations are awesome. I feel like I get to know the staff as the season progresses, and I just have a really fun time there. Moving right along to number 3, which is Epic Universe. Epic was just an insane experience. If you haven't had the chance to go yet, I highly recommend it. Apart from Stardust Racers being absolutely incredible, they do have a solid lineup of other coasters, even though they're a bit more on the family side and less on the thrilling side. They also have just an awesome collection of dark rides. Monsters Unchained is one of the best rides of the year for sure, and it was just such an impressive place. It was the best theme park food I've ever had, and I just had a great time. Even though it was like 95 degrees that day, you could go cool off with a water ride or a show, or stepping in and seeing some of the nice merch. Now, one thing I will say is that you can't find a lot of merch for the coasters here, which is kind of disappointing. I hope they come out with more like Stardust Racers merch and stuff so I can get it. But anyways, Epic Universe, number 3 on my favorite parks of the year. Going down to number 2, which is the classic Disneyland. Now, I got to spend a day split between Disney's California Adventure and Disneyland, and there is nothing that quite compares to the feeling of rounding the corner and seeing Sleeping Beauty Castle. I just think it is gorgeous. Smaller castle than Walt Disney World, but it's still like just as magical. You can really feel Walt's impact on the park and all of the history that lies in there. I always love going and checking out the classic attractions and things that you can't find at Disney World, because we are closer to Disney World than Disneyland, so I like to go over there and get a little bit of a different experience. And that takes me to my number 1 park of the year, which, surprise, surprise, is Cedar Point, America's Rock and Roller Coast. Located up by Sandusky, Ohio, they have the most beautiful views of Lake Erie from almost every coaster. Just every direction that you look, there's something fun and thrilling around the corner. Just an iconic collection of coasters, some very historical in value, being the first 200-foot tall roller coaster, 300-foot tall roller coaster, the first operational tilt coaster in America, all sorts of different stuff. They hold the records for so many things, and they still manage to have just great customer service, great food and beverage options, and great location. I really enjoy visiting Cedar Point at least 2 or 3 times a year. I'm coming up on our next categories, which is treats. Now, if you don't know this about me, I do have a severe peanut allergy, so that will impact my treat decisions here. But starting at number 5, I just have to give a shout out to mini corn dogs. And really, anywhere mini corn dogs, but I ate a lot of them whenever we went to visit Universal a couple of times throughout the year in 2025. They have this awesome kids meal that you can get with fries and then your choice of a little drink. It's like pretty cheap, and you get a lot of food, a lot of bang for your buck, and usually had some left over. They're just iconic, classic food, and if I was going to be stuck in because it was too cold or too rainy at the hotel, that was my go-to snack. Number 4 on my list of treats are the Buffalo Chicken Tots located in Seuss Landing at Universal Islands of Adventure. They have a lot of great options for tots, but I do consider this to be my favorite one. I just love the ranch on top and the green onions, the chicken. It's a fantastic combination. It's not something that I usually think about, and then I went there, tried it for the first time, and now I can't stop thinking about it. So really looking forward to getting that next time that I visit Islands of Adventure. And suddenly it got a lot darker. Number 3 is a classic, and that is Dole Whip at any of the Disney parks, but you can also get it at other locations, like going to Santa Claus, Indiana at Holiday World. You can go to Louisville, Kentucky at Kentucky Kingdom, and several other amusement parks. It's not just at the Disney parks, but I always enjoy it. I love it in a float form with pineapple juice. I think that it is just a fun, refreshing treat, especially on a hot day, and it's usually one of the more affordable theme park treats. So 10 out of 10 do recommend, and it's allergy friendly for a lot of allergies. Number 2 on my treats list is the boysenberry icy at Knott's Berry Farm. Now, if you've been to Knott's Berry Farm, you know there is boysenberry everything. Boysenberry ices, boysenberry punch, boysenberry zero sugar punch, boysenberry barbecue sauce, boysenberry pie, boysenberry cotton candy. I mean, it is just boysenberry central over there because it used to actually be a berry farm and not an amusement park. And then it slowly transitioned towards what it is today. But anyways, I think that my favorite boysenberry treat is just simply an icy, especially on a warm or sunny day. It is just so refreshing and fun, and it is included in my Drink Plan Plus with Six Flags, so wonderful. And coming in at number 1, at no surprise, is a churro, but specifically a Disneyland churro because the Disney World churros do taste a little different. I love the chewiness, the ooiness, the gooiness of a churro. It is just so massive, and it feels like it'll take you forever to eat. You could split it with someone, but you probably don't want to. Churros are definitely one of my favorites. My next category is going to be trips. These are going to be call-outs to specific trips that I went on throughout the year, mostly coaster related. Some are a little bit not coaster related, but we'll get there when we get there. Starting with number 5, which was King's Dominion's Rapterra opening weekend. Now, I drove up the 8.5-hour solo, and honestly, these aren't in any order, but I would probably put it at the bottom just because I did that whole drive solo, and I felt a little bit sick during, and I had a little bit of car troubles during. But it all turned out fine. I spent about a day and a half at King's Dominion, and I spent a full day at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, and it was just a fantastic little trip. The spring was in full bloom at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, and I got to see a little bit of the florals and ride the sky ride and just all of the fun, iconic little things that you can do at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, in addition to being there for season pass holder preview night of Rapterra, and it definitely did not disappoint. It's a cute little compact B&M wing coaster, and the layout is short, but I do consider it worth the visit, especially when the other coasters in the park are open, which unfortunately Pantherian was not, but I still had a great visit to King's Dominion to get to be one of the first people to ride Rapterra. Number 4 was my Orlando solo trip, and I just thought that I would never have the confidence to go out and do like a really big trip alone. And when I say alone, I did go visit different friends throughout the trip. I was there for about a week. Now, I stationed myself at Universal at Dockside, and I really had a great stay there. But in addition to the Universal parks, I went to 2 of the fun spots, Orlando and Kissimmee, and I went to SeaWorld Orlando as well as Busch Gardens Tampa. So I kind of hit all the parks. Some days were a little bit better than others, but overall I got to enjoy about 30 different coasters on that trip, which is really crazy to say, and I had never really spent a lot of time in Florida as an enthusiast. I went to Florida when I was younger and I wasn't really riding coasters as much, but I hit just about everything except for the Disney World parks, and it was so fantastic. I loved visiting with the people that I met there, but I also loved just the moments of kicking back by the pool with a book with 70-degree weather and it being February, because you can't do anything like that here in Kentucky. Number 3 was mine and Andrew's trip down to Epic Universe. It was a really hot trip, but it was fantastic. We did get to spend about half a day at SeaWorld Orlando, half a day visiting the pool and reading and doing City Walk stuff, and then we spent the next full day at Epic Universe. We got to spend time at Surfside, and I really enjoy that hotel. It's a lot of fun, and if you haven't already checked it out, I think that it's like an equivalent of a Disney moderate, like Universal's value resorts. They're just really nice places to stay, and I really enjoyed my time in the parks, my time outside of the parks, and even though it was a whirlwind trip, we had a great time. Next was my mother-daughter trip to Dollywood for my birthday. We went to the opening day of Smoky Mountain Christmas, and Dollywood used to be my home park, and I spent a lot of time going to Dollywood with my mom growing up, and it was just awesome to get to go there together as adults, and we rode some of the things that we used to ride together, and I got a fast pass so I could get on and off things pretty quick that my mom doesn't really care to ride anymore these days, like the bigger coasters. And I just had a fantastic time visiting with her. We stayed at the island at the Margaritaville Hotel, which was really fun. We were there Halloween night and got to see all these crazy little dinosaurs, and I rode this silly little coaster there. All in all, just a fantastic trip. And probably my number 1 was visiting Universal and getting my annual pass for my birthday. So very shortly after this trip to Dollywood, about 2 weeks later, we ended up in Orlando. Thankfully, my birthday falls around Veterans Day, so it's the perfect excuse for a long weekend to go out and ride coasters. I met up with my friend Zach and his wife Alexa, and we got to hang out with them for a little while. And then we also did a lot of things, just the two of us, and again, spending time by the pool, reading whenever it's November is just fantastic. It's something that you don't get to do up here in Kentucky, and I always like to build in some reading and pool time whenever I go down to these places, as well as ride iconic coasters like Velocicoaster and Hagrid's. We started about every morning with a ride on Hagrid's and a ride on Velocicoaster, and that pass holder entrance at Islands of Adventure makes all the difference. So be sure to check it out if you're an annual pass holder and you forgot about your benefits. Those are my top 5 favorite trips. I don't really know if they're in an order because it's really hard to decide, what trip is better than the other. I just love all my trips, but there are 5 memorable ones. Next up is my non-coaster rides. I rode a lot of non-coaster rides this year and dark rides, and I could probably make this list entirely Disneyland and DCA, but I'm trying to mix it up for y'all. So I'm going to be including some Disneyland stuff, some non-Disneyland stuff, and the number 5 on my list was riding the original Small World at Disneyland. It was iconic, fantastic, and we were there during the holidays, so we got to see the holiday overlay, and oh my god, if you haven't been there for that, it is so cute, so adorable. And I just love the cute little boats. Walt Disney World, they have the bigger ones, but it just feels so small and cute, and having a little row to ourselves, and we got to be in the front row of the boat, so we got a really good view. And Small World is just so much fun. I love the Behind the Attraction episode about it. If you haven't watched it already on Disney Plus, highly recommend. They have a lot of good episodes on the different dark rides and coasters at Disney. So you should totally check that out, but that was one of my favorites. Number 4 is literally any train ever. We love riding the train. We also love riding, number 3, my favorites, any carousel. Some notable carousels are Kings Island one that I ride a ton, and the Epic Universe one, Constellation Carousel, was very unique and different. The carousel in Islands of Adventure in Seuss Land, while it doesn't feel like it's made for adult-sized bodies, was a lot of fun and had a whole bunch of whimsical characters on there. Overall, I just really enjoy those 2 rides. I love trains as transport rides. I love trains as just like one-stop shop that will take you right back to where you were. It's just classic rides. Number 2 is Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. I love this ride. I cannot talk about it enough. I mean, the trackless aspect of this ride is really the thing that blows me away. I mean, there's a lot of screens and stuff, and some people are like, we need more physical set pieces or animatronics or whatever. But honestly, I think that they can get away with it because this ride system is just so cool, and it feels really long for what it is. And you have the really cool pre-show, and I still don't understand how they do what they do in the pre-show. But yeah, it's going to be one of the classic rides, I think. And I'm really sad that it replaced Great Movie Ride at Disney World, but I do think that it was a worthwhile trade. Coming in at number 1 is a ride that's actually closing next year, and I might get a lot of hate for this, but it's Fast and Furious Supercharged. That's right, I said it. It used to be at Hollywood and now it's gone. And it's on the chopping block at Orlando too, because they're getting that new Fast and Furious coaster, which I'm sure will be great. But I am just so sad to see it leave. And you're probably thinking, Raven, why do you even like that ride? Well, I'm glad you asked. You can't take it too seriously. You gotta make sure that you take it as seriously as you'd take the Fast and Furious franchise in general. I mean, they've got Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, they've got Ludacris, they've got all these different weird starring roles, and they have the 2 interactive pre-shows. There's never a long line, and the party bus, it's just the funniest concept ever, and honestly, most of the time it doesn't make sense. And it's just so interesting. It is quite the experience. So that's why Fast and Furious will remain my favorite dark ride until it closes, and then I will probably cry. And then say Riders of the Resistance is my favorite. So that wraps it up for my coaster-related topics, but I also wanted to mention my non-coaster honorable mentions or favorites of 2025. And unfortunately, at the very beginning of this year, my grandmother passed away, and it's been really hard to deal with. I'm sure you know if you've experienced a loss before, but I was just very grateful for the time that we got to spend together in 2025. She was one of the biggest influences on my life, and to get to spend 28 years with your grandmother is honestly pretty unheard of. It's not like you usually get that much time with your grandparents, and I'm very fortunate that we had all of that time together. We got to spend one last Thanksgiving and Christmas together, and that we got to be as close as we did. And I'm just very grateful for the time that we were able to spend together. Anyway, I'm gonna get weepy, but the next thing is just generally time with my family and time with my friends, and this is something that I'm going to continue to try to prioritize a little bit more in 2026. But unfortunately, right now, the snow and ice kind of have me stuck right here. So, something to look forward to in 2026. We got to go visit Michigan, me and Andrew did, to go see some of our friends get married. And then, a couple months later, we got to go visit them in Charleston. And it was so much fun. It was my first time that I had ever been to Charleston. And I had a great time, even though we weren't there for a super long time. We got to celebrate my boyfriend Andrew's birthday, and we just had a great time visiting together, and I love their dog so much. At the beginning of the year, we took a trip to go to Carowinds, but we also took that trip so we could go visit some of Andrew's friends and go see a Hornets-Knicks game. This is one of the more affordable ways that you can go see the Knicks, is to go see a team that's not super great, and then you don't have to pay Madison Square Garden prices. But I had a lot of fun, even though we didn't win the game, unfortunately, going to see Knicks play for the first time, and I look forward to going to see many more Knicks games, as I am a budding NBA enthusiast as well. In June, I had the great privilege of becoming an aunt. It has been so much fun getting to visit with the new little baby in the family, and I just love getting to watch my sister be a mom and her husband be a dad, and it's just a great joy to get to see that whole little family every time that I go to visit. And I did a lot of Kentucky-based activities this year. I went to my very first UK game. I went to the Kentucky Horse Park for the first time to go to the Southern Lights stroll and other Kentucky activities that I had never done, even though I've lived here for like 5 or 6 years. So it was fun getting to explore my state, get to know a little bit more about the area around me. There you have it, some of my favorites, coaster and non-coaster, of 2025. I've got a lot of exciting stuff planned in 2026, and be sure to stick around for next Friday's video because you're going to be really excited. I'm really excited. We've got an awesome series coming up here on the channel. Be sure to stay tuned for it. If you like this video, make sure that you like it. Literally, your support means the absolute world to me. Subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss all of the awesome stuff that's coming up in 2026, and I will catch you later, coaster people. Bye.